The wilderness you flee to escape your past is not a neutral void, but an active participant in your reckoning, demanding that you stop outrunning your grief and start listening to the silence that has been trying to speak all along. In the last run, Rachel Weaver delivers a literary thriller that transforms the survival narrative into a profound exploration of female solitude and ecological attunement, proving that in landscapes defined by isolation, healing isn't found in endurance. It's forged in the radical act of surrendering to the land when every instinct demands you conquer it. This isn't merely another woman in peril tale with breathtaking vistas. It's a psychologically precise narrative where every frozen ridge feels like both sanctuary and sentence. Consent to survive is negotiated through humility rather than dominance, and freedom means honoring the body's wisdom when the mind insists on control. From the first wind-scoured narration, listeners are immersed in a world where terrain is testimony and presence is the only true compass. Perfect for fans of emotionally grounded literary suspense and stories where female resilience defies victimhood, this audiobook serves up atmospheric reverence, relentless emotional honesty, and a protagonist whose journey from fugitive to integrated witness resonates with anyone who's ever mistaken distance for safety. When former guide Alara Vance disappears into the Alaskan backcountry after a traumatic loss, she expects erasure, not to discover the landscape mirrors the exact suppression she's endured beneath years of performative competence, and the quiet rhythm of the wild bypasses her defenses to create space for a confrontation she's spent decades avoiding. But as she navigates treacherous passes and varied memories, Alara realizes this flight isn't about escape, it's about integration. Weaver masterfully avoids reducing Alara to tragic survivor or the wilderness to mere backdrop. Instead, she crafts a narrative where survival becomes somatic therapy, where consent is renegotiated through acknowledgement of interdependence rather than assumed autonomy, and where liberation requires seeing the ecosystem as archive before it consumes you. The audiobook narration amplifies this psychological vertigo, capturing Alara's disciplined focus fracturing into fierce clarity, while secondary voices, rangers, locals, memories, shift subtly between judgment and grace, making every encounter feel like both test and testimony. You don't just hear her struggle unfold, you feel the seismic shift of a woman learning that some truths can only be found when you stop running from your own history. What elevates The Last Run beyond typical survival fiction is its nuanced portrayal of wilderness as collaborative teacher rather than adversarial force. Alara isn't merely enduring hardship, she's confronting how outdoor culture taught her to equate worth with mastery, challenging the notion that safety requires domination of the land. Her relationship with the environment evolves through acts of radical reciprocity, sharing silences during blizzards that bypass performance, establishing rhythms that protect both physical integrity and emotional safety, and honoring the land's agency against internalized narratives that mistake vulnerability for failure. Supporting elements add vital texture: indigenous elders whose wisdom carries intergenerational weight, fellow guides whose loyalty encodes suppressed trauma, even the mountains themselves, rendered as living archive whose glaciers absorb centuries of unspoken bargains. Every interaction reinforces the novel's core truth. In systems built on extraction, tenderness is technique, and presence is the only sustainable resource. Even the survival mechanics serve thematic depth, with route finding mirroring emotional attunement and shelter building becoming metaphors for earned trust. For audiobook listeners, this production is an immersive sensory descent into elemental intimacy. The narrator embodies Alara's evolution with remarkable range, from clipped professionalism to trembling openness during breakthroughs, while supporting characters are distinguished through vocal textures that honor regional authenticity without caricature. Sound design enhances atmosphere without overwhelming immersion. Distant wind gusts marking temporal rhythm, rain against tent fabric during vulnerable confessions, the hushed crunch of boots on packed snow syncing with breath during moments of clarity, all anchor mythic stakes in tangible reality. Pacing mirrors the cadence of wilderness travel, deliberate during reflection and allied building, then surging with urgency as external threats collide with internal awakenings. Whether you're commuting through stable landscapes or sitting in twilight solitude, the audiobook creates a portable sanctuary where slowness feels sacred and embodiment feels lifeline. It's storytelling as somatic validation, transforming passive listening into active participation in a journey where justice isn't found in destinations, but in restoration. Ultimately, The Last Run redefines literary suspense by centering female epistemology within ecological frameworks. It satisfies genre cravings for atmospheric tension and cathartic resolution while delivering substantive commentary on environmental grief, masculine-coded wilderness culture, and the radical act of trusting embodied knowledge when systems demand conformity. No prior series knowledge is needed. It stands confidently as a complete emotional odyssey. If you've ever wondered whether strength can coexist with softness, or if true mastery requires embracing what others fear, this audiobook will affirm that sometimes the most powerful act is simply stopping. Press play, lace up your boots, and prepare to believe that even in landscapes shaped by silence, hearts still find ways to speak. Your next favorite literary thriller isn't waiting in perfect escapes. It's waiting in the brave, trembling choice to honor the whole